Welcome to Wisdom for Your Day. Sit back and get ready for knowledge from real people with life lessons to apply to your journey today. Look at this photo of a young Sylvester Stallone. Notice the drooping eyelid and the slight snarl of his lower lip. When he was born in 1946, the attending doctors misused 2 pairs of forceps, accidentally severing a facial nerve. It left him with permanent partial paralysis of his lip, tongue, and chin, along with a severe speech impediment. Those physical traits immediately made him a target for neighborhood bullies, but his home life offered no refuge. His father routinely subjected him to severe physical and emotional abuse, constantly mocking his paralysis and telling the boy he would never amount to anything. By the early 1970s, his pursuit of acting had pushed him into absolute destitution. After being evicted from his apartment, he spent 3 weeks sleeping in the Port Authority bus terminal. Out of desperation, he took a $200 role in a soft-core adult film, a choice he later described as his only alternative to armed robbery. Every aspect of his life, from his physical body to his domestic environment and his bank account, was entirely out of his hands. If he was ever going to survive the Hollywood machine, he had to manufacture opportunities himself. Knowing casting directors would reject a lead actor with slurred speech and an unconventional look, he changed his strategy. He spent his days in public libraries, studying screenwriting. If the studios wouldn't cast him in a leading role, he would write it himself. In March 1975, he watched a journeyman heavyweight named Chuck Wepner take Muhammad Ali to the 15th round. The sheer human resilience on display struck a nerve. Stallone rushed back to his hotel room and hand-wrote the entire first draft of Rocky in just over 3 days. Studio executives loved the Rocky story, but viewed Stallone as a massive box office risk. They desperately wanted him to walk away from the lead role. This chart shows their escalating buyout offers, starting at $125,000 and climbing to $350,000. Down here is a flat line showing Stallone's actual bank balance, exactly $106. He had a pregnant wife and could barely feed himself, yet he refused every single buyout. He ultimately accepted a modest payment of $35,000 for the script, purely on the condition that he would star in the picture. He traded financial security for creative control over his own destiny. Once the film was greenlit on a shoestring budget, the executives at United Artists realized they needed a hook to market a completely unknown actor, so they took control of Stallone's personal narrative and weaponized his actual poverty to sell tickets. You've probably heard the viral legend about his dog, Buttkiss. The story goes that Stallone was so broke he sold his beloved Mastiff outside a liquor store for $50, only to track down the buyer and buy him back for $15,000 the moment his Rocky script sold. The reality is a bit different. Stallone did sell the dog, but he actually bought him back for $3,000. The studio's former head of marketing later confessed that they deliberately fabricated the inflated $15,000 figure to engineer a massive publicity campaign. They needed audiences to view the actor and the character as the exact same person. It worked flawlessly to launch his career, but it permanently blurred the line between his genuine working-class struggles and calculated studio fiction. By the mid-1980s, the vulnerable, defeated working-class writer who crafted the original Rocky was entirely consumed by his own success. Stallone became trapped in long-running action franchises, heavily typecast as an invincible, hyper-masculine caricature. When he tried to navigate his career trajectory by pivoting to comedy, it backfired. His chief box office rival at the time, Arnold Schwarzenegger, knew the script for Stop or My Mom Will Shoot was terrible, so Arnold publicly faked interest in the role, triggering Stallone's competitive instinct to bypass creative scrutiny and demand the part for himself. Desperate to maintain his grip on his action star dominance, Stallone started seeking absolute realism in his directing. He threw out standard Hollywood safety protocols, demanding that his co-stars hit him with genuine, unchoreographed, full-contact punches. This demand for authenticity had a terrifying medical cost. During the filming of Rocky IV, he ordered Dolph Lundgren to hit him for real. Lundgren struck Stallone's chest with such velocity that it slammed his heart against his ribs, sending him to the intensive care unit via an emergency low-altitude flight. Decades later, a stunt sequence with Steve Austin in The Expendables fractured Stallone's neck, requiring a permanent metal plate.
His childhood instinct to seize control over his environment had kept him alive in his 20s, but in his later years, that same instinct mutated into a self-destructive, bone-breaking liability. By the early 2000s, major Hollywood studios viewed him as a relic. He had endured a decade of critical panning and direct-to-video releases, and his career was stalling out because he refused to let go of the reins. The turning point arrived in 2015, when a young director named Ryan Coogler approached him with a new concept. He wanted to make a movie called Creed, focusing on the son of Apollo Creed, with Rocky stepping into the background as an aging mentor. For the first time in his entire career, Stallone agreed to step aside. He surrendered the writing duties, handed over the director's chair, and entrusted his most prized creation to a completely different artist's vision. The role required him to play a fragile, lonely man battling illness. To pull it off, he had to strip away 30 years of explosive action hero armor and expose the vulnerability that he had originally written into the character back in 1976. This Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor represents the critical acclaim he received for a performance defined by quiet vulnerability, one that stripped away decades of posturing to reveal an aging, lonely soul. The role also earned him an Academy Award nomination, exactly 40 years after his very first one. Symbolically closing the loop on his complicated career, the Golden Raspberry organization awarded him the Razzie Redeemer Award, acknowledging his transition from an easy critical punching bag to a celebrated dramatic presence. Stallone's empire was built on a career-long refusal to compromise, yet he secured his ultimate artistic legacy by stepping aside and trusting another artist's vision. This has been Wisdom for Your Day. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. For more, visit us on YouTube by the same name.